Thought I would document this particular cigar box guitar build. It's actually my second one, but I'm going to do a interesting technique on it, so I thought I'd document it step by step. This guitar is kind of interesting because it sort of has a story to tell, a narrative, which I guess I'll share during the video. I've never made a video like this before, so I'm going to shoot it in sections and then hopefully edit it together. So a little bit about this box is a jewelry box that I bought at a junk shop for like $1, and it was intriguing because of this this neat etching groove on it. It was a dark solid brown, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of weather this and use paint and give it sort of like a barnwood aged beat up look about it. So I already started by sanding back some of the stain, as you can see. It also had flock on the bottom, so I'm just sort of giving it a rough sanding. I didn't take it all off because I kind of think some of it should come through as wood. It had a little decorative filigree piece in it, which I removed. And so I've already cut the notch because it's not going to go all the way through. The neck is going to go in, end here, and I'm going to have a hinge here for the strings. So this is my poplar guitar neck. I did my very first scarf joint on it. So I guess I should open it up to show you the inside. I took all the stuff out of it that was inside the jewelry box, but there's the notch, and like I said, it's going to go right through. And the neat thing about this, the walls of the top are exactly the depth, so I don't have to notch down here. Do a sound hole design, and I'm not sure what it's going to look like. I put some painter's tape on it, and with a compass I drew a circle. I'm actually thinking about overlaying a piece of tracing paper and doing it, and then sketching out something. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in a way where I can, using Forstner bit or something, actually drill whatever out and then take a coping saw or jeweler's saw and kind of finish it. I don't want to get too fancy. I'm kind of torn. I don't want to take all day just to do a sound hole, but I'm going to see. I'm going to take some tracing paper and put it on there here and take the width of one of the bits and just kind of play with a loose sketch and see what I'm going to get ready to do it. I chose to keep it simple, if you can tell, and I just did circles around and then more circles inside in sort of a random pattern. But what I actually did, if you notice, is I used a larger stencil trace hole off of this than my actual bit. And the reason was that way I was worried about making them too close or this would all fall apart. So I thought if I did a bigger circles but use a smaller one step down drill bit, then I could have plenty of room. And if I wanted to, I have a step bit and I could actually widen them. I'll decide on that after. Alright, so the drilling's done. As you can see, it tore totally the tracing paper outline. I'm about to unveil it. Obviously I haven't seen it, and it drilled through in a couple of places instead of being separate holes, but that's okay because part of the story, and like I said, this has a very interesting tale, is that this guitar is like 50 years old. It's been knocked around, lovingly played, but also kind of abused through the owner's travels. So I'm gonna unclamp, tear the paper off, and see what we have under it. Get the clamp out of the way. Maybe I should have left the clamp. Get that. Get the first layer off. be fun trying to take off. So yeah, it's crude and it's broken in places, but again, that's okay because the whole thing is going to be distressed and worn out anyway. I just opened it up. I removed the block of wood I had put behind it, and just like it is torn up. So I'm going to try to clean this out. So I cleaned up the mess both inside and outside, and as you can see, a few more pieces I think broke off, and it's a little ragged. But I cleaned up the mess. See if I can get it open. And I've also coated the back with thinned out carpenter's glue. The idea being hopefully it'll just sort of shore up the splinters and the thin wood and kind of just help keep it together. Step now, and I've gone ahead and carved my neck, but I am about to ruin it, at least temporarily. It's only one step in the process. I am proud of it. For my second guitar, I really did a great job, I think, with the rasp. I've got it pretty smooth, but like I said, I'm about to destroy it. So it's clamped on here. Now the tools I'm going to use right now are primarily this drill with a steel wire bristle brush on it, a screwdriver, another wire brush, probably the concrete, the brick edge of my house, whatever, because I am about right now to ding it up. The main thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the wire brushes over this, and it's going to eat away all the soft grain of the wood, leaving behind the harder grain, and also leaving behind some really cool grooves and dings. Remember, this is an aged guitar, so I'm probably not going to be able to show you the whole process. In fact, I won't. Basically, I'm going to run this brush with the grain along the neck. I'm going to flip it over, clamp it, and do just every visible segment, including the headstock. Now, I know you're thinking, you just went ahead and smoothed it and you're going to tear the hell out of it. Well, by the end of this process, I'm going to seal it and hopefully get it as glass smooth as it can be, but it's going to be built up in layers covering all the work I've done. But hopefully it'll be a cool effect. So I'm just going to do a little bit. So as you can see, there's some really cool texture now, and it's the hard grain is left and the really soft grain is gone. So I'm going to do that to the entire guitar. I don't think I'm going to cut in any more of the video of that, but I'll show you after the fact. So here's the back of the neck, and I have to admit I did whimper a little bit while doing it because it did kind of hurt. You can see all the softwood is pretty much gone, and all that's left in this grain is the really hard wood. If you don't have one of these drill things and you have a Dremel does make little wire brushes. It's not as easy, and I did notice one of them I used on a test piece, the stuff flew off, the bristles. But you know, you can do it with whatever. You don't even need to use a round thing. You can use a wire brush. In fact, the corners here, the jagged parts of the neck didn't take it, so I'm just kind of hitting it now a little bit with a wire brush. And I also, you know, don't apply pressure when you're doing this. That's not the point. You're not really trying to scar the wood unnaturally. You're basically putting enough pressure to eat soft wood away while letting the hard grain stay, and that gives the texture. So, you know, you're not actually putting a lot of dings in, though I am going to hit it a few times, a few hacks with the screwdriver. Especially here, because I want some effects, so I just put a couple scratches, and you know, something here to look like there's some wear and tear and age, and it's been banged a few times, and a couple of runs, a couple of gouges. I'm gonna whimper a little bit as I gouge into my pretty neck. It's been hit a few times, you know, it's been dropped. The whole story, which I'll tell probably at the end of the video, is that this guitar, you know, it was made out of necessity, sort of, with found material, and it's traveled the world for close to 100 years, and it's banged up in ships, it's banged up in the back of pickups. So I flipped it over to do some work on this side. One of the things I will admit I'm not happy about the process is that this was my very first scarf joint, and it wasn't perfect, and I did a really decent job of wood puttying this crack where the joint was. Fortunately, grinding the heck out of this ate away at it. But again, as part of the narrative of this guitar, this was crudely done by somebody, and so of course his scarf joint 100 years ago might not be perfect, and it probably will be kind of neat. The effect itself will probably be neat when I start to treat it, but I wanted to show that. You can see, and it is hard to like swallow because I had a beautifully smooth neck, but now you see this is nothing but hardwood grain. All the softwood's kind of vanished. Over, and I'm about to do the fretboard, and they're starting up again, the fretboard and this side of the guitar. So I thought I'd show you a little bit. It's kind of hard, obviously, to do this camera left-handed, whatever, but I'll shoot a bit and yeah, so it jumped a little bit, but so this process I'm doing, it's not my idea. It's actually a woodworking process I've found on YouTube. I'll put links to the guy who did this on, I want to say it's like My DIY Guy, but don't quote me. It's a multi-process technique, and the interesting thing is I've never done it before. So I could be shooting a video of a major cluster project. And a lot of the next steps of the process are totally random, just like this. All these marks and divots are based only on the amount of hardwood versus softwood in the grain, and the other parts of the process, which I'll illustrate in the next couple more segments, it's going to end up being totally random as well. It's actually using a couple of chemical reactions to stain the wood, but not stain it like traditional stains where, you know, stains and paints are kind of basically the same, where they just sort of, they take over the wood and do it. Well, this is gonna be sort of the wood and the chemicals in the wood, especially tannins, and the chemicals that I'm going to apply, which are natural chemicals, and I'll explain that later, all kitchen chemicals, are going to react with each other. I mean, there's a little tip of it right there, which was just a drop from my test piece getting on it. And then the final process is later. We'll cover over it. So, all right, I'm gonna hack the heck out of this.